Good morning. That's my head is crooked. Good morning to you. Representing the Buffalo Bills this morning. I'm a Giants fan, but Buffalo's still New York State, so they still get some love too. They still get some love too. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, okay, so I'm gonna share a personal story this morning. Because I use myself as my own guinea pig, my own example, and I also want to use it as an example. Oh, I feel like Emilio Estevez in the Breakfast Club. I also want to use it as an example for you all because, well, let me just get into it. So I am. Oh, that's loud out there this morning. So good morning. I'm currently a student with the Institute of Authentic Tantra, and I already know that this is going to blow me open this year. Um, I already know that it's going to be quite the ride. And during my first session yesterday, some things, I had to, doing intake and so forth and so on, and some things are solidifying for me personally. So, and if mom and dad watch this, there's no blame on you. Like, I'm not mad at y'all, but this is just what is. Um, Good morning. So, when I was 10 years old, my family was evicted. Um, we lived in Brooklyn. I remember the day we moved in. I was 4 years old. I was wearing yellow shorts uh, and some what looked like Converse sneakers. And we'd really moved from one building to like across the street to another. So from 4 to 10, I lived in this apartment. Great apartment, loved it. My sister and I had our own room. We had our own bathroom right next to our room. My parents had their own room. They had their own bathroom. There was a balcony. We could go down the fire escape. There was this huge patio. Like the kitchen was pretty huge. It had like two doorways to the kitchen. Like, it's just living kind of a lavish life back then, as far as I was concerned. Even our closet had two doors. Like my sister and I would like pretend to go through one door into another. So it was pretty snazzy. And so that's where I lived. That's where my childhood was. My childhood was in Brooklyn. That's what I knew. Uh, in the fifth grade, we switched schools. My parents decided to put us in private school, so that was change number one. Right, the public school I'd been going to, that I was part of the busing. I was bussed out to an Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn, and so I'd been there for about 3 or 4 years. And so the first change was we switched right at the beginning of the school year into a private school. So like this school year it was already like 2 weeks in, maybe. I'd already started fifth grade with my friends, folks I knew, and then it was like, no ask, whisked into a new school. That's hard enough for a kid, right? You're starting a school year with folks you know. All of a sudden, your parents make a decision, and now you're riding an hour train ride into Manhattan to the Upper East Side to go to a school that you didn't ask to go to with people that you have no idea who they are. And these kids already all knew each other because they'd already been going to this school. That probably I could have worked around, right? The real thing that happened, and I'm saying this because I want to show how something that seems so small and insignificant can really be the thing that impacts how you run your life and impacts exponentially and the way that things unfold in your life. Went to school one morning, fifth grade, 10 years old. My father took us to school. My father picked us up from school. and said, "We're going to my mother's house." No explanation given. I had no idea what had happened. And as being a parent who had children and being evicted, I get it. The amount of like the shame and the guilt that you feel when you are evicted and you have children. I hope you never experience it if you haven't. And if you have, I'm with you. So my parents were experiencing that, and while my parents were fairly progressive, I'm certain the knowledge, well, not the words to say to their children. I mean, I was the eldest. I was 10. My sister was 7, and my brother was it's like 3. You know, to say, "Hey, we've been evicted," just didn't come to their mind. My experience as a child was that I woke up in my bed with my Curious George and my toys and my dollhouse and my bookshelf, and I washed up and I brushed my teeth and I put my stuff on and I went to school and I never saw my home again. My experience as a child was that my entire life that I knew had been completely ripped away from me with no explanation whatsoever. Just shift school, okay. Home, gone. Toys, gone. Everything I knew, gone. With just a few clothes that my parents could gather together or that my father gathered together, and that was it. I went from one grandmother's house, stayed there, stayed at the other grandmother's house. And so for 2.5 years, my parents were getting themselves together. And when I was 12 and in 7th grade, we moved they found an apartment in Harlem. And that's where I was for the remainder of my teenage years. It took me so much time to unravel the fact that that day caused such a shift in me that I didn't really know. I did ask for therapy because I've always been that kid. I'm just an introspective type of person. So I knew that at some point, I remember telling my mother I needed therapy because I felt like I was depressed. I said this at 10, and I was. But the ripple effects of that unfolded in my life in this way. I was always transient. I didn't settle down anywhere. It played out in my adult life in being evicted. It played out in my adult life in always moving from place to place. It played out in my adult life in even when my ex-husband and I settled into renting a house. I did not furnish the house. I did not put pictures on the walls. I did not purchase curtains. Like, I thought about it and it was on my list, but there was never the money or there was never this. Like, I did not put down roots anywhere because at any time I had to go. I kept the milk crates that I'd had for the longest time. It's illegal to take milk crates, but 70s, everybody did a lot of stuff. I had a bunch of milk crates. I had those milk crates for the longest time. Just, my stuff just packed and stacked. It affected my commitment, my ability to commit to anything. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids. I wanted to be able to just pack a bag and go. Which also makes me think sometimes, and my heart breaks for children who are displaced from places. You have no idea. You think it's, whether it's war or hurricane or tornado, you think it's okay that, they just like everything got washed away and they can just start fresh. Yes, and there's resilience, right? But there's a way in which we adapt to a situation or ways in which our ego works to protect us over time, which impacts our life even when the trauma is gone. We think of trauma as these horrific events, right? Horrific. We think of sexual assault, we think of robbery at gunpoint, we think of a car crash. And yes, and trauma that can affect you profusely for the rest of your life can be 10 years old and your family just moving like that. And so there may be areas in your life where you feel like you are struggling. I struggle with commitment, which means I struggle with discipline. I struggle with it. The idea of it makes in my body feels like it wants to collapse. It feels like prison to me, and it's not. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It feels like being trapped. It's like, no, I gotta be free. I gotta be free to go. I gotta be free to go at any minute because you never know when you gotta go. My ego has worked overtime to protect me from the pain I experienced that day that I never completely processed to this day. As I'm realizing, I have not I processed my sexual assault more than I processed that day, cuz that's trauma. Got to work through that. That can really affect you. But that day when I thought I was going home and just gone, I have not processed that. It's still in my body because I can feel it as I'm talking to you. It still affects my ability to commit. So I start here and then I go there and then I go there and I go there and I try to set up these little, schedules for myself because I know, so I'm very feminine based. But I also know that I need the structures to help my feminine. Otherwise, my feminine is just like whimsical. Like she's just like fairy like. She's just everywhere, just everything feeling good, but she doesn't necessarily want to hunker down and do the other pieces. And then I try to bring in the other like masculine parts, to help her out, and she's like, I just don't want to have anything to do with that. And so I'm saying this to you in the hopes that you can look at areas in your life and it's like, where do I get stuck? Like, do you get stuck with your spending? Like, do you know that you just spend too much? And what's that rooted in? Like, when you think about it, what is that? Because for some people, it's rooted in the trauma of never feeling like they had anything when they were a kid. Yes, teased, bullied, like we could go that far for sure. But even if you weren't teased and bullied, it could be the trauma of just watching your parents cry or your caregiver just be snappy because there was not enough money. It could also be the reason why you don't spend it all, why you hoard your money. And you just can't even justify a purchase, and you will run everything ragged into the ground because you remember what it was like, and that sticks in your head and it informs your actions. Trauma isn't always what we think. It's not always these large scale events that happen. Some could say that me being evicted that way was a large scale event, right? But I'm thinking like, people assume car crash. They're like ready to go. Are you okay? Like no one came to me at 10 and was like, oh my gosh, you got evicted. I mean, this was 1983 though, right? So it's no trauma informed anything. But it wasn't like people are like, are you okay? How is this affecting you? Would you maybe want some toys from where you were at? Something to help you feel like home? And nothing. And so now, and it's so funny, like as I'm talking to you, like my body just feels like tight. It's tight here in my chest area, from here to my solar plexus, tight, to protect my heart space, to protect my heart from the grief of the loss. And so now needing to unravel that, because that experience caused such fear of commitment that it affects what I do now. It affects my business. It affects my ability to host and hold relationships. It it affects all the areas. Where I'll start something and then it's just like, and then it just falls off. I finally, in the past, I've lived here for almost 10 years. This is the longest place I've ever lived in my entire life. Ever. In all of my 4 decades of living, 10 years in this apartment is the longest place I've ever lived. Well, I mean, technically, from 12 to 22, I lived in Harlem, but I was in boarding school half that time. So I was just like visiting, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like I lived there. I had a bed in a room there, and that was my permanent address, as they say. So I guess this is about equivalent, right? Permanent address to permanent address. But anyway, so I had the apartment to myself for about 3 years now, and I just started really putting furniture stuff in it last year. And I was like, I gotta go. Like, I gotta be ready. I don't want to have to take a lot of stuff with me when I move. When I gotta. And I was like, you've been here. Like I painted. Didn't paint by myself. Shout out to my former relationship who helped me paint. I finally painted. I'd never painted anywhere I lived. So where the areas that you're struggling in your life, the areas that you're struggling in the most are sending you a signal that there's something clicking in the back of your brain, a protective mechanism. And that's why no reason for shame. The way the human brain works, it's like it's protective. Like, I'm not going to beat myself up for this, because really at 10 a decision was made to assist me in surviving so I wouldn't break down completely. It's just that that decision has run amok. The virus has taken over my computer system, and we don't want that. You don't want, like, it serves a purpose, right? So, when something happens to you, and it affects you emotionally, and it affects your nervous system emotionally, that's trauma, right? When it's a hit to your nervous system in a way that your nervous system is not able to handle the energy of the emotion, right? I talk about us being energy beings. Trauma happens when something external affects you and affects your nervous system to the point it is not able to handle and process the energy that is coming in. And so it gets stuck, it hits hard, it and so it's almost like then it becomes like when the brain wants to protect you, it's like a vaccine. It's like an invader has come. I don't even have to say vaccine. It's like an invader has come and it's like your white blood cells run amok. Just run amok. Like, oh, we gotta make sure this is okay. Let's grab up whatever this is, except for it never stops. It never knows that it's okay. It becomes part of your operating system, part of your personality, part of your behavior. And you think it's you. So I can run around saying, I have problems with commitment. I just like to be free. I don't want to be tied down to anything. And I think that's my personality. Now, part of it is I'm definitely a free-spirited person for sure. And because of that, my body was like, no, it's working. It started working overtime to make sure that I did not experience that type of pain ever again. Not knowing that, I just figured as I grow, especially because I'm 10, I'm prepubescent, right? So now this new program is in my head as I'm growing through puberty and adolescence and teenagehood, and I'm thinking, I just I'm just growing up, and you know what? I'm the type of person that just don't want to settle down. I don't want no commitment. I don't want no problems, no issues. I just got to be free to go. Give me my backpack. I'm out. No attachments to people, places, things. And it didn't help that one of the times that we were evicted when my children were younger and the marshals were there. It's one thing to know you're going to be evicted and to break out beforehand. It's another to be there when the marshals are there. And you have till 11 a.m. to get all your shit out. And I packed up my kids' stuff first because they were not going to experience what I experienced, right? So I made sure all the kids' stuff got packed first. Everything in my kitchen got left behind. All my dishes, mugs, baking stuff, sheets and blankets I'd had. My stuff got left behind, but it wasn't going to be my kids. That certainly, you know, helped to click another click, right? And that was years apart. Like, here we are again, but this is different, but it's the same. So, again, no attachments. See how easily it's lost? Nope. After that, we're just not settling down anywhere. Fuck that. The program has run amok. I think it's me. It's not, it's my trauma. How many of you are operating off of trauma that you haven't even realized that you think is your personality? You think your behaviors are you, and they're not. They're your defense mechanism against the pain that you've experienced somewhere back when. It's not who you are. It's not who you are. So now, I will begin this process of unraveling this very painful event to see, and freeing myself of it so that I can step fully into what I need to do. You know, there are ways and spaces in which I'm not playing full out because it requires commitment. And part of me is forcing myself to do things that I need to commit to so that I can start to process and see and show myself that it's safe. It's safe to commit to this. It's safe to schedule this weekly. It's all right. You're going to be okay. So I tell you this story, as always, to help give you an opening into your own behaviors and your own personality traits, and to see where you can look at spaces and places in your life where you thought that was just who you were, and you're like, is it though? Is it who I am, or is it who life made me to be? And am I okay with it? Because if you are, then rock on. Like, rock out with your cock out. You know? If you're not, or if it's hindering you in some way, you're living your life from a trauma response. And then you don't beat yourself up about it. Because again, I'm so thankful to my 10-year-old self, who was like, our ship is taking a beating, Star Trek fan. Ship's taking a beating. Romulans are throwing their torpedoes at us, shields up. Shields up. We need to make it back for repairs. Except when you make it back for repairs, and it's like the shields just won't come down. The shields are stuck. And so now we have to work to bring the shields down. So I hope that you work to bring your shields down. It can be frightening being vulnerable as a human. We open ourselves up to grief and sadness. I'll say anger, but yeah, I'm talking about grief and sadness, and the gut-wrenching, punched in the gut, in the stomach, in the solar plexus feeling that has you doubled over with that. Being a human brings wailing cries of not understanding, of pain and loneliness. Of course, we put shields up until the shields don't actually need to do that job anymore, and now they become a hindrance and a blockage. All right, so that's my story today. I finally feel like I've stepped into 2021 today. I feel like it took a whole week, and this week has been a motherfucker. It feels like 2020 was like, wait, I don't want to really go yet. And 2021 is like, I really want to get started. And 2020 is like, just hold on. I just got a few more things to do. So I feel like it took me a whole week to just finally get land in whatever. And I know time doesn't mean anything and all that, but my human brain on the calendar, right? It feels like I finally landed in this. So one of the things that I'm doing, a couple of things that I'm doing, and this is partly in an effort to help me with commitment. I have a podcast that I have done random assly, but I love doing the podcast. But again, commitment, right? And so I will be doing my podcast this month. It'll be the third and the fourth week of January, because I just want to get it out. I want to do it. I have to do it. There's a thing in me that wants to do it from a pleasure. It's just, I feel like yes to this. It makes my nipples hard, right? And so it'll be the second and fourth Monday is when my podcast will go out. And then from February on, it'll be the first and the third Monday. And if you're on my email list, you'll get a notification when it's up. And my podcast is literally the shit is up on iTunes, for fuck's sake. I should be putting up episodes, right? And they're only 30 minutes. Commitment. It's just 30 minutes, y'all. And I rarely ever edit the shit, because I like to be free flowing, just like I'm here now. So that's one thing that's happening, that's coming up. The second is Clubhouse. So I had so much fun popping my Clubhouse cherry last night. I thought I was gonna be in there for an hour. I thought maybe nobody would show up. It was a ruckus fucking good time. We were in there for almost 2 hours just talking about it, and I loved it. And something that I learned about myself, and the same thing with the podcasting, is I love moderating and giving space for other people to speak. Like I love coming on here and talking to you like directly every morning, and I'm probably going to keep doing that because I do enjoy this and it has helped me with commitment. But I loved giving space to others to talk. And so Clubhouse, I will be doing rooms there. I'm gonna do a room definitely on Mondays and possibly on Thursdays. And the reason why I'm choosing Mondays for the podcast and for Clubhouse, and Clubhouse will be every Monday. The reason why I'm choosing Mondays is because people don't like Mondays. Mondays fucking suck for a lot of people. It's the day that most people end up having heart attacks. They hate going back to work. You know, they don't like what they do, they don't like their job. And so if you're gonna go into your Monday, I want to try and bring a shift to that. So you get the podcast in the morning to kind of get you juicy and get you going, and so your Monday isn't like that shitty. I want you to think of your Monday like your Friday. So you get me in the morning in the day, and then like twice a month to help you out, and then every Monday at night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You get to dive into some sensuality if you're on Clubhouse. It's in beta form, which is why it's on iPhone. It's just as easier for developers to do shit on iPhone apparently than it is on Android. So if you're an Android user, just hold tight unless you want to upgrade and join the rest of us in the Apple sphere. But it's in beta, right? So it'll be open to everyone soon. But it's Mondays because everybody does that shit on Friday. Everybody's already fucking happy on Friday. I want you happy on fucking Monday. Like, I don't want you going to bed Sunday like, ugh, it's Monday tomorrow. My hope is, and my desires for people who are in my sphere, is to be like, it's Sunday night. Let me go to sleep because Maisha about to drop some shit Monday. Ooh, what? And if it's the first and the third Monday, I'm gonna get that shit twice. She gonna fuck me twice. Yes, let me get in the bed. I'm ready, snuggled up Sunday, waiting to get fucked in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I want for your Monday. Because then your Tuesday will be good. Your Wednesday is hump day. Thursday, Friday. Like, we're going to keep this train rolling so that you can begin to really live orgasmically from your soul's desires. Right? So these are the two things that I'm doing in part because I love it. My soul's calling for it. And I want to make a commitment to you to show up. To show the fuck up. How am I going to encourage you to show up all full out in your life if I'm over here not doing the same? And it means that I've got to do this work. I got to do this work. So that's what I'll be doing. So Clubhouse, Mondays at 9 p.m. Podcast is going to be coming out. If you're on my email list, you will get it. One will be just me. One will be a guest because I like that. And then there's the Sensual Energy Coven. You can always message me and join us there. Vixen. We'll start in February. I haven't talked much about it yet. There's something I still need to feel into it. But it will start in February. I've mentioned it here and there, and I'll start talking about it more, but it just doesn't feel like it's the time yet. It doesn't feel like it's the time yet. All right, that's it for this morning. I'm going to finish sipping my tea like Kermit. I love you all. I will see you back here tomorrow morning. Bye.